Hi, everyone. This is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I'm about to go live with Miles Johnston. We're going to be talking about the sudden death of Max Spiers, Supersoldier. And I understand some people don't like that term, but it's kind of like all we have to designate people who have been working for, you might say, the dark side, and have been maybe messed with, augmented, you name it, through mind control and other methods. And so I'm waiting here for Miles. Just wanted to let everyone know that we are going to be starting. I know we're starting late here. And I think what I'll do is I'm just going to put, a brief little sort of picture on the screen here while we wait for Miles to join us, and hopefully it won't take too long. He said he was going to get right on the show with me, so just spoke to him on the phone. Obviously, this is a very sudden occurrence, and we want to talk about some of the surrounding events, and certainly Miles has been dealing with Max Spiers most recently, and in fact Max was due to speak at his upcoming conference, the BASES conference, that's in August, where I also will be at least Skyping in from what we know. So just wanted to say that. It's a mystery to me what is really behind all of this, and why suddenly this would happen. We are really hoping for an autopsy to reveal what is going on with what went on with Max Spiers. And it is interesting. I have put a link on my projectcamelotportal.com to my previous interview back in 2013 with Michael Prince and Max Spiers, and you can go to the front page and see it there. I've also got a link to a recent interview that he did with someone in Europe, and I'm afraid I don't have those details at the moment, but I did listen to the interview, and it's quite good. So I do encourage everyone to actually look at that interview. It is very sad news about Max, and I'm anyone in the sector would be very concerned over the dynamics of what's really going on. I can see that we've got people in the chat. Thank you for coming by, and like I said, we're going to try to get Miles Johnston online here. If you hold on 1 minute here, I'm not sure what's happening. Hello?
Hello, Carrie. I tried that hang up, but I'm the only one on it.
Okay. Yeah, we often have problems like this. I'm actually going to see if what I can do here to get you on this screen. So hold on 1 second.
I just had Margaret Duval on the phone. She's furious. She says, we're all just seeking publicity. It was just an accident. Forget it.
An accident? Wow. That's...
he was taking his normal medication.
Normal medication? But he died.
I know.
That's not real normal. Unless normally medication makes you die. Well, that may be the case. I don't know what kind of things he was taking, certainly. But... if you know,
well, that's something to be explained and analyzed, but I just tried reporting this. I'll tell you on air.
Okay, can you hold on 1 second? You are on air right now with me. However, I'm going to try to get your face. Do you have a camera? Can you go on?
Yeah.
Can we get your face on Skype? And then let me see if I can bring you on visually and see what we can do there. Okay, very good. And let me see if I can then, this is kind of tricky, but maybe it'll work. There you go. So we do have you on Skype now. This is kind of amazing. This is working. And so welcome, Miles Johnston. I have already introduced this this sad news as we have framed it. And I don't know the parameters of the situation, other than it was on Saturday night that you called me. We had just broken and the end of the conference that day. So Saturday night we were about to go to dinner, and I got a call from you reporting this news as you understood it at the time. I do understand that there was some kind of timing in which you actually wondered if he actually had died, because I think they thought perhaps he could be resuscitated. Was that the idea?
Well, the bottom line is, as long as there's hope, there's hope. Now, I want to make it absolutely clear, Kerry, that this has nothing to do with me or you. It's about trying to find the truth behind Max Spiers' death. And let's focus on Max. Monica Duval's been on the because that's where Max died, and she's gone through enough hell as it is. But the bottom line is that a person has died here, and I don't think it's good enough that somebody who just took normal medication should end up vomiting, spewing black liquid, whatever it was, and then shortly after that, whatever length of time it was, died. Now, the point is that there's too many variables here. So I think we've got to be very careful about what we say and about how we say it. So,
okay, well, I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind going on the record saying that I think it's suspicious circumstances.
I've gone on the record, and I think it is suspicious, and I've asked for an official investigation, and I've asked for people to wait until there is an autopsy and an official investigation. But his mother isn't even in Poland, and she's still in England, wherever she is. Max was only taken to the morgue early Sunday morning. That's yesterday.
Okay.
And
can you talk about just give us a blow by blow? I know you've put out your own video, but for the purposes of everyone watching, some of whom are not going to know the details.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the clock back about 3 or 4 months, because then it puts an awful lot of players and names into context. Okay, there's a Polish conference called the New Earth Conference, I think, because it's in Polish. I think it's called the New Earth Conference, and it's been an extremely advanced, forward-thinking conference in Warsaw, put together by two extremely delightful, forward-thinking, intelligent women. One's called Madeline, the other's called Nuta. And they have been big fans of Basis. They've been coming over the last couple of years, interviewing various people for their show on NTTV in Poland. And this has been very forward-thinking. And they invited me to speak at their first conference last year, and then again this year. And this included Max. And Max attended with Kieran Lee Perrin, who's British, one of the leading British targeted individuals, and he's organising the target individual community here. He's got these big implants in his head, and it's whatever. That's Kieran Lee Perrin.
Okay.
This was the first time that Max was to speak on his own, and when Max first spoke at the Coronation Hall, which is a little village hall in the middle of crop circle country, he was very, very nervous, and he's so nervous he had to spend the rest in the hotel. So when he's now only like a year later, 18 months later, now speaking at a major conference in Warsaw, this is a big deal. So I admired him for coming up to to measure to do this, and. So the long and short of it is, about 2 months ago, we had that conference, and he spoke, and he was very well received, and he decided to stay on. There's a very fine lady called Monica Duval, who is a publisher, and she naturally felt that he was a good vehicle for publication of his works. Because the Polish are really switched on. They are so far ahead of so many people in the States and in this country. They are absolutely tuned in on all of this subject. I mean, to go into Warsaw and you have a packed audience full of really intelligent, articulate people who really want to hear what's going on it's really quite refreshing. It's much more difficult to get that level of an audience in this country, or what I know in America. We've got the UFO wacko law and conspiracy law, but to have such a tuned-in, civilized lot of people, it was a tremendously refreshing and civilized thing. So Max stayed on, and he stayed with Monica. Now, one of the other key players here is Stuart Spurdlow, because there's a picture published quite recently of Stuart with Max and Monica. And this is a happy thing. These people are very, very nice people. Everybody's a lovely time, and this is totally pleasant and just great. And to hear on Saturday evening that Max had died, virtually finished as the conference finished, was a hell of a bloody shock.
Right.
Now, in the meantime, there's another player on this. She's called Christine Joanna Hart, and she's got a show on Revolution Radio as Queen of Heart in the States. Okay? Now, there's a major connection here with the astral super soldiers, because Christine Joanna Hart is a British mainstream broadsheet journalist from London's Fleet Street. And she's been a super soldier, and she's been investigating, she's got right up to the head of the real IRA. She's investigated key players in terrorism. And a lot of people are wondering how she ever got there. But the bottom line is that she shares a lot of the attributes to a lot of the sort of super soldier people. She knows Aquino, this guy. Aquino, she's been battling with him in the astral, and this is all on her show. She's explained all this on her show on Revolution Radio, which I've republished with their permission on basis 50. It's up to like 30 parts or something.
Okay, and just to be clear here, because there are people listening that are not going to know who Michael Aquino is. He is a black.
Every character needs explained.
Yeah, he's a black magician. He was based in San Francisco, to my knowledge. I don't know if he's still there.
Well, I've heard that he's essentially a much worse, a far more, I better be careful what I say, a far more intensely dangerous character than Britain's Jimmy Savile, who was essentially, it's been claimed by sources that this Jimmy Savile was basically the elite's child catcher. And he was sanctioned by the BBC for like 40 years, 50 years on BBC television. The key thing is that this linked Christine Joanna Hart with Aquino, James Castle, Max Spiers, Dan McBolan, which of course brings in Paddy Brassard and Karen MacDonald, and other individuals who sort of go to war on the axis for some reason or other. Now, Kieran Lee Perrin, he's got these implants. It was explained to him bluntly about 4 months ago that he is a super soldier, and his character, his being, fights in other dimensions for a British psychic warfare battling team of some kind. Now, in the last couple of weeks, Max came here about a month or two ago after the Polish conference, and he wanted to tell me something. Came here to my house here in Wiltshire, and then his personality was switched. He came here to do another 2 or 3 hours of interviews, and something happened which made him very hostile towards me, and it was quite disturbing. So what then happened was, rather than me do the reporting with him, a woman called Oya, I think 1100, that's to say Kathy Thomas, was at your conference yesterday at Passing Clouds, the old lady who did the entrance. And she did an interview in my house with Max, with a guy, with a lovely lady called, a woman called Real Eyes. Now that was called Max Spiers Unplugged. Okay?
Yes, and I think I have watched some of that as well.
Yeah, I think that was the last time there was any, and then I did a little, which was very lightweight, and so the whole point was okay, Max, you know, we'll do another one later. So
but let me just clarify. Let me just clarify here that what you had said to me was that Max was and did acknowledge in public that he was working on the astral, that he was a super soldier used on the astral, and
Yes.
that he had several. He says even on the interview I've linked to recently that he has several altars. So all of that is important information for anyone listening to you to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. Now the other thing is that spinning back about basically 2 years, there was a huge lot for people who want to plug into the James Casbolt story. James Casbolt left the United States. We won't go into why, but he did.
Okay, but he was operating under the name of Michael Prince at the time.
And he was divorced and thrown out of the Mayer family, having married Haley Mayer. At that time, Max and James, or Michael Prince, were exchanging extremely aggressive views and comments against each other on various media. And I had James Casbolt do the first and only made public appearance of an audience, where Casbolt mentioned that he was actually there to assassinate a lot of the Rothschilds and things at an event in New York, but he also mentioned Aquino again. And there were some elements of presentation which caused enough problems where Lorien Fenton was involved with, and a lot of agency people started exchanging email and discussions about all this. Now, the whole point about that meetup was that Max Spiers was meant to turn up, to be on stage, but Max didn't turn up. This was now when Max Spiers and Sarah Adams' girlfriend had now effectively moved to England. And subsequently after that, I made a number of recordings with Max at his home in Broadstairs, because Max's family is prominent family in the British acting profession, in the film world. And his grandfather was a major sort of bit part player in British movies. He'd been one of those actors that would always be there talking to the other main star in a particular scene, given whatever it was. And I think he was in movies like The Bridge over the River Kwai, and major British movies in the 60s and 70s involving major mainstream British actors for the British cinema. So there's a lot of connections there with some pretty high-level people.
Right. Now, let me say that because people are listening to you and trying to follow the chronology of where you're going, and there is some skipping around here, and it is necessary to really fill in the blanks so people understand the context of why this might have happened now, and why it might need to be investigated further, and not just taken as some kind of natural death for someone so young. So at this point, could we cut to the chase and talk about a little more recent events that may have led to his death?
Okay, so let's jump to Poland. So he's gone to Poland. We've had the conference, and I fly back, and Kieran flies back. Max stays. So basically, Max is staying with Monica Duval. Very nice. They're getting on very well, and they've shot, what I understand, 3 very nice interviews in Poland. Very nice atmosphere, and I think they were published yesterday. And Max basically was building up to really tell them very important things. Now, because of Max was being severely criticized by some of the key players who are in the back room, that you will never have people in the back room which are involved with what was going on with Max and James Casbolt. And people have got to understand that James Casbolt and Max were sparring partners in the Astral. One of the things that they were doing was to spar together in the Astral and fight aggressively as a form of training for whatever they're meant to be designed for. Okay, Max, James Casbolt, Dave Marrow, and possibly Matt Todd, another few of these children were part of about 42 children that the British put together for some kind of astral ET war for now, basically. And the ones that we know, one, James Casbolt, is in jail now and out of the picture, but crucially, this may be relevant to what's going on. Only a few days ago, James Casbolt's appeal against his very long sentence in jail for essentially blackmailing the mayors, that was a charge thrown in at the last minute, which gave him a maximum 20 years in jail for basically writing online that he wanted $2 million. And he was going to get that from his under previous agreements, but I don't want to go into that, it's too confusing. But what happened was about 4 or 5 days ago, James Casbolt's appeal was successful. So James isn't going to be away for another 10 years. Suddenly James is going to be coming out in 18 months. So we don't know if that's relevant at all, but it just has happened in the 10th week, roughly, that this has happened. So that is just a factor, right?
Right.
We don't know, as I say, whether that's relevant.
Okay, so in terms of, to get back to the Saturday night and when you got word, can you go down that road a bit?
Okay, Monica Duval and the other lady, Madeline, sent me text messages, which I received all at the same time because I'd only just switched my phone on right about 6:15 after we finished at Passing Clouds. I go through these text messages and I'm on my way. I'm making my way back to Devizes, which I brought all these books. Which anyway, so I need to go back on the train, back 150 miles back to. So I get this text message: Max is dead. So I then call Madeline in Poland to find out what the hell's happened, and she's very distraught. They're in tears and very emotional. Max is dead, and we're desperately trying to get hold of his next of kin, his mother, right? So I then standing at a tube station, and I get a call. I talk to Monica, and she is extremely distraught that they cannot revive Max. So she mentioned something about 3 doctors trying to revive him. He's found him passed out, not breathing. She's called in the emergency services. They're desperately trying to revive him. Now, I'm not sure if this was officially declared dead at 1600 hours Warsaw time, which would be 6 o'clock British time, or whether it was 6 o'clock p.m. Warsaw time. But if that was the case, it would be 8 o'clock our time. People have got to understand that from London time to Warsaw time, there's a 2-hour difference. So what's 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Warsaw, I think, is 6 o'clock in the afternoon for us. Am I getting that right?
No, you're getting that backwards. So it's 2 hours later as you go east. So if for you, when you got the call, it might have been 6 o'clock. If it was that late, I don't know. If you left my conference, I thought perhaps you left my conference.
We all left at about 6 o'clock, 6:15.
All right, so you left at about 6 British time. Then it's actually more like 8 p.m. in Warsaw.
Right. Okay.
So
how long he'd be declared dead is relatively important here because it determines whether it's even conceivable that he could be revived. The bottom line is, if there's any kind of hope with somebody's death, you do your best. You do everything you can to try and revive somebody. So if somebody says there may be some hope, well, let's wish there is hope. Now, I had to jump into a train that was basically for communication for the next hour. So at the start of that train journey, Monica's, just before it started, Monica's voice went from crisis to possible hope. Now, that is where the confusion arose that he was actually in a coma and hadn't died. And that's all. There's then this gap of about an hour, which I'm in it and can't really communicate. You can get about a couple of minutes or 30 seconds on the phone with the mountains and the hills and things when you're using the mobile phone network on it.
Right.
And so, your communication isn't that good. If you're lucky, you might get the right bit of line where you get a good signal for 3 or 4 minutes. But you're going under tunnels and all sorts of things. So basically, it was another hour and basically a half, roughly about another 90 minutes before I was able to get stable communication. It was back home. And that's when Monica was once again extremely distraught, and there was no question of it at all. Max was dead. But in the meantime, people had been firing things around that he rocked dead and it was in a coma and the whole thing goes completely out of hand. And that's all baloney, right? Max was dead and wasn't coming back. There was a period of time when maybe there could have been some hope. But that, like 5 minutes, then I was in the train for the next hour and a half. So let's get that all in context.
Okay, fine.
Basically, Max died.
Okay, now
late afternoon of Saturday afternoon.
Okay, and the information you got was that, correct me if I'm wrong, what you relayed to me is that some kind of fluid was coming out of his body. Are you talking about for days on end? Or are you talking this was a sudden, breach of fluid? Or, I don't. You said it was black, but it could have been from the lower intestine.
After I got back, now we're talking now late at night on the Saturday night, 4 or 5 hours later, Monica is still in a hell of a state of distress because she's got Max there, and she then explained to me that earlier, but she didn't give me a time frame, so I don't know whether this happened on Friday, whether it happened a few hours or minutes before he was declared dead or whatever. I don't know that information. So, and we don't know the volume of liquid that came out of Max, but basically Monica explained that a black fluid was coming out of Max's nose and mouth and anus. Basically, he was dumping black fluid. Now, I have no idea how much was involved. We don't know what the fluid was. We have no evidence, and that is what an autopsy has to analyze and an official investigation has to analyze. And anything else on top of that is pure speculation.
Okay. All right. And so
subsequent to that,
yes,
lost consciousness and revived.
I understand. So have you been able to talk to Monica any further?
I literally off the phone. Monica literally called about 20 minutes ago before I literally started. And she has seen my YouTube thing, and I knew she'd be unhappy with that. But the bottom line is, when somebody dies, and a young man dies, they need to know what the cause of death is, and that has to be determined by an autopsy or by official bodies. And when they do that, they will give us the actual details, and that may be quite some time, because if whatever the authorities do in this procedure when you're abroad and you're in a foreign country, especially, his mother has to go there. I thought his mother was en route on Sunday, but I got a message from her this morning that she's not going to be there until tomorrow. So,
okay, but let me ask you this, because you said it sounded like 2 or 3 doctors trying to revive him, if I understood.
I was told that there were something like 3 doctors that made attempts to revive.
All right, so it doesn't somebody, before removing his body from her apartment, because he had stayed there the whole time, don't they have to give a report to her, saying, writing down the cause of death, in their opinion at least?
I'm sure they do, but I have not got that information.
Okay.
And I don't think I think you can establish a time of death, but an autopsy has to determine a cause. Now, the point is, Monica has said that Max was taking medication. Now, I've had other information And again, these are all interested parties that may want to muddy the waters. So we've got to be very careful here that he was taking medication which was being given to him from a certain person, and he may have vastly exceeded that medication. And Monica said she didn't know whether Max had exceeded that medication. And if anybody exceeds the medication, they're asking for trouble. And, that's it. And if you take too many aspirin, ordinary aspirin, if you take a whole dose of that, it'll burn the stomach walls. And if you keep doing it, you're gonna have hemorrhaging.
Okay. Now, at this time, when she talked to you, which is you're saying just recently, and certainly, we can offer her
25 minutes ago.
All right. Well, we could, I don't know if she is maybe too distraught to go public herself, but this is.
She doesn't want to do that. She just is saying this. She's not interested in feeding anybody else with public information. She just she's angry because. I'm very sorry if she's angry, but when somebody dies, you need to get an autopsy, and no official attempt to do that.
Look, what we're doing here is a broadcast because we are part of a community, and certainly Max would understand that. That these people, I just got done. You just got done with a fairly substantial conference that happened all weekend long. All of us are concerned. I interviewed Max Spiers back in 2013, as you may know. And I think I might have been one of the first. I don't know. But at any rate, he was accompanied at that time by Michael Prince, who was previously.
That was the very first time I met Max.
And that was at Lorien Fenton's Supersoldier conference.
And that was thanks to Lorien Fenton for putting all that together, and she needs to be given
right.
For
but
that.
I do, in the sort of because we have to trace the history here. The history of humanity and is an ongoing story, and we are the ones to tell the history. And it's not to rely on so-called official and mainstream press to distort all of this at a later date. What I'm trying to do is grab hold of this thing at the early days, just simply because you are one of the first people, the last people to have seen him, because you actually saw him very recently before he went over there, and you were in contact with these people. So it's natural that we talk to you.
He was scheduled to speak at my 3.5 weeks time, and I was insisting that what he goes on stage was that I already lost a speaker, Cara St. Louis, walked out of my conference because she felt that Max was just going to steal her material and mouth off about her material and her stuff, because he heard Max refer to the Fae on one of Christine Joanna Hart shows, I believe. Now, she has just been about to talk about a whole thing about the Fae on her material stolen by Max.
Okay, but this is not something that actually happened. This is just some fears that this person had.
Yes,
correct?
It is. But the point is, I lost my main speaker for Sunday evening because of Max. So I'm insistent that Max come up with his own material, and he said he hasn't even heard of Cara St. Louis.
Right.
So he doesn't know what the hell this is all about.
Well, look, anyone who watches the various interviews, and there are a lot of them with Max Spiers that have happened over the years since I interviewed him along with Michael Prince, we'll see there's a volume of material that Max has at his disposal to talk about. So, he would have been a great speaker, and he has made a lot of progress since the time when I first interviewed him. And I want to say this for people, because they're going to be curious about this. There's a number of sort of sideline issues that relate to this and could even have something to do with why he was killed. First of all, you've got a guy who was trained, was altered, was being used as a super soldier, self-acknowledged, as well as in my interview with them. Michael Prince said and told me that he was the handler of every super soldier that was at that conference at that time, back in the day. Now, Michael Prince is in jail. He also goes by the name of James Casbolt. I dealt for years with a James Casbolt who sent me some excellent written material that is available on my website to this day, so that you can see what his alter, James Casbolt, was doing. He was a much more accommodating individual, and apparently someone who was trying to be a whistleblower back in that day. Then he made a transition and became Michael Prince. Now, Michael Prince did the interview with me along with Max Spiers in a hotel room during the conference. And I have to say that he predicted, he said accurately, that the powers that be, the elite, the people that he worked for, in fact, who he said were basically part of the Fourth Reich, were going to plan to have race wars in the United States in the near future. That was in 2013. Now we fast forward to today, when I've gotten many texts. I'm not in America right now, but I've gotten many texts about, and of course it's in the news, about various shootings and so on that went on in Texas, etc., that appear to be false flags to instigate racial wars of this type of thing. Now, I would hope people are not that dumb to fall for this stuff, but I'm afraid they are.
Kerry, that's exactly what they trialed in Northern Ireland. The whole Northern Ireland IRA thing was completely set up by the elite for division of so-called Protestants and Catholics, to marginalize the civilization, wipe it out, control it. They brought various street level movements in and up. They went up and down like a yo-yo. All the surveillance stuff and movement profiling that are now in use with these much sophisticated facial recognition cameras, which are going up all across England and Scotland in particular.
All right. Well, absolutely.
That was all.
Absolutely.
Exactly
This.
what you're going through now in the States was tested in Northern Ireland. So.
Yes, and some of the recent, France is being targeted right now, as we know, with some other, false flags. The recent one in Nice, which is clearly a false flag, in case anyone is in doubt, and the signs are there. And if we get a half a chance, I will try to get Ole Domagard on my show very soon. He's an expert on spotting all of these methodologies.
And it looks like a failed United States-backed coup in Turkey has just gone wrong.
Well, there you go. So what we're really talking about here is these are not isolated incidents. If Max has been killed, and the evidence, as far as I'm concerned, and as an intuitive, I can tell you right away, this is what I got, then this is part of a larger picture. And it is not.
So also make it clear, I don't think Monica Duval has got, she's a fine person. I don't think she has any active participation in this.
I understand. But what I'm saying is that he could be targeted from long distance. I know that I have been, and I know it works if they want to do it. Now, the reason is I wanted to look at this is because I think we need to know why now. Why target him now? They could have brought him back in and tried to reprogram him. Or had he gone so far off the reservation as a super soldier, becoming a whistleblower, that they decided they had to silence him? Did he have some special knowledge?
I mean, if he was going to come out with stuff, the stuff he came out with on Christine Joanna Hart show, because the last time he was on with her show on the Thursday, and he pulled out in the second hour. So that would have been prime time in the afternoon in the United States. Christine Hart's show goes out from 7 p.m. till 9 o'clock here. She's in England. She was interviewing him for an hour, and then he pulled out, and then she basically just pulled out as well. She got in a hell of a roasting from Revolution Radio. So as late as Thursday, Max was on air.
Okay, do you know why? Do you know why he pulled out? Did you ever hear?
I don't know, because next day was Friday, and then I was preparing for the lecture, but I got 2 text messages from Christine Joanna Hart questioning, was he murdered? And then I says, no, look, leave us alone. This is a tragic time. Let the conspiracy theories. And she said it again. Was he murdered?
Right.
So
well,
Christine Joanna Hart has worked for front companies for MI6. And once an agent, always an agent. And right now she's a penniless, broke, single mother in central London. But Christine Joanna Hart will play silly, but she is as sharp as they come.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I got this as an intuitive. This obviously has to be investigated. The trouble is that we would need more information, and I suppose
Well, I think
if you know, besides the mother, can I ask you, you know, because you have been in touch with the mother, isn't that right?
yes.
So the mother will be in a position to also take a stand as to whether more information will go out to people like us, to the public.
Well, as of about midday or maybe 4 or 5 hours ago, her message to me was that she is uncomfortable with what's happened and does want an autopsy. But to be perfectly honest, an autopsy in these cases should be normal. So
I know, but we know. I know, but we know that when a person of this type is involved, such as you know, a super soldier, a person who is in our sector, nothing acts normal half the time, or more than half the time, and there are always very suspicious things that go on. So we need to keep an eye out. This is just being cautious. This is just being vigilant to make sure that the truth is not hidden. It's so important.
Well, I did try to report this to the police, the local police, and basically they couldn't give a damn.
Right.
So they said, go to your embassy and use Interpol.
Okay.
So I don't know where you find a British embassy in England. Yeah, you have to be abroad to find an embassy.
Right. Well, you know, it is unfortunate that Monica is not more forthcoming. Is there anyone around? Wasn't there another woman in the apartment, or was that?
The only person who was ultimately present, Madeline explained to me, he hadn't actually seen or been with Max for 2 months.
Ah, okay.
So I think we have a situation where basically it's been dumped on Monica's lap that Max has died in her apartment and she's been distraught. The only thing is, why didn't she call the ambulance immediately? But I mean, that's it really. That's the question. Whether to save Max or not, we don't know. But I mean, if Max was being poisoned or he's been given prescription pills that he was over indulging in, I mean, ultimately it's an accident. He's self-harm. It's a cut and dried case of, you know, he took too many pills.
Okay, is there, well, let me ask you this. Is there any evidence of what type of medication it was?
No idea. And anything else.
Well, are you able to get in touch with the people that were giving him this? And that doesn't mean that's the only thing he's taking. I mean, just because you're aware of a certain thing, he could have been taking lots of different things for all you know.
As far as Monica explained to me over several conversations was, he was completely drug clean. He was off all the drugs. Sarah explained that when he called her from, I think he was in Malta, one of the Mediterranean islands. Max was known to be, he wouldn't tell us where he was going, but he was flying to different places. He would say, I'm just coming back from the airport, or I'm just here this time zone, but he wouldn't actually say. So, I mean, whatever business he was doing whatever business he was doing. But somehow being given something, whatever it was, has caused some severe harm and ultimately killed him. It would appear.
Okay, well, I mean, unless the doctors thought the medication he was taking, you know, this sounds like something he might have been taking over a long period of time that may have nothing to do with his death. I can say that what it sounds like to me is that he was poisoned. But it may be more sophisticated even than that. It could even be radiation poisoning. I mean, there are many methods. I know that we had gone to see Kesh about a year ago, and we were in Venice, and we got deathly ill in record time, you might say. And I'm sure that somebody actually sprayed something in our face, the question, or gave us food poisoning that was so severe.
I had that happen to me at the UFO Congress. Somebody rushed into the bus as we go to the airport, sat beside me, and then suddenly changed seats again. And within about 5 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes, I started to suffer an extreme reaction. So they poisoned us. It's not rocket science.
Well, I
Question
mean,
is who or why.
right. So what, am I right in understanding that he was speaking at a conference at this time, the day before, or was this a
No.
misunderstanding?
He was, the only thing he was doing as far as we're concerned was his last appearance was on the Christy Joanna Hart show, and that's at 7 to 9 p.m. our time. So Warsaw time, it's 9 till 11 p.m. I think that's right around.
And on what day was that?
That was last Thursday.
Okay, so that was Thursday, and then was he taken ill on the Friday? Was that your understanding?
What actually happened between Friday and Saturday? In that timeline, the only person who can answer that is Monica.
Okay. Well,
for some reason, he crashed off air and didn't do the second hour on the Thursday evening.
all right. I wonder if the first hour is, can you get it now? Is it still online?
I'm sure that's uploaded. It'll be on my basis, one of my basis moderators called Tajinda. High Elms conference on the Saturday. He'll probably upload that on Christine's site, which I don't know what it is, because I long since I haven't uploaded any of her shows for quite some time now on Basis 50, because I decided, look, it's your own show. You need to be putting it on your own channel.
Okay. So is there anything else we can add to this that will help people? Because I do have people in the chat. It's possible they want to ask some questions. I do want to open up for questions here.
Yeah. The important thing is that until we get an autopsy, we simply don't know. The only thing we do know is that he's dead. He is dead. And his body was removed from Monica's apartment early on Sunday morning to the hospital, to the morgue. And he awaits there to be removed to the UK. I mean, maybe why his mother hasn't flown over there immediately, but there may be very real important reasons why mechanically you can't do that, because you've got to wait for the relevant authorities and paperwork to get a coffin ready to ship back so you can fly back with them and go through the relevant procedures. I mean, this is a very distressing time for everybody.
Okay. Now, someone in the...
I'm obviously guilty of online speculation, but I'm trying to keep to the facts, and I've given my opinion, and my opinion is that there's enough doubt here that it really does feel as if somehow Max lost his life by design and not by accident.
Okay, I see in the chat that Stuart Swerdlow was somehow in contact with Max recently.
Yeah, I mean, that's no secret. There's a very nice photograph of Monica with Max and Stuart having dinner together. That's about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I don't know what level of continued contact Stuart has had. I understand from Sarah that wife was giving him some medication of some kind, prescription drugs, I suppose is the term. I don't know what they are. I don't know how much it was. I don't know how much Max actually took. So I mean, those if he took them at all. So I simply don't know, and nobody should take that as read.
Right. Okay. Well, perhaps we can get in touch with Stuart and see if anyone. If anyone listening to this, no, I mean, I do want to say, if anyone listening to this is in touch with Stuart Swerdlow and he has any further information, or Sarah, I'm not sure what Sarah's role is. I'm sorry, I don't know her.
Well, Sarah basically was distraught beyond tears. When I told her on Saturday night, she absolutely collapsed in tears. She was totally distraught.
Okay, and I'm taking it that Sarah is a friend?
Very angry.
Sarah is a friend. Can you describe who Sarah is in relation to Max Spiers? Who is she?
Sarah is one of the so-called super soldiers who became friends with and girlfriends, very close relationship with Max, and appeared with Max on stage at a number of basis conferences and small mini events, and were effectively almost like a double act. And Sarah would do her bit, and then Max would do his. And this was really the first time they were both getting broken into talking to the general public.
Okay.
And they'd begun to like that, and they were both going to appear again at the base tour 2016. But I was not happy that was going to be the case, because I wanted them to come up with new material. I felt that they basically gate crashed onto my conference, because I felt that, look, okay, just because you've appeared twice before does not guarantee you a slot the second time. And so I was giving Max a lot of pressure to make sure he wasn't going to just copy other people's material, and I wanted the real hard material, original material.
Okay.
And do that, and that was the case.
Have you been in touch with Sarah then since Max's death?
Yes, I was the person who broke the news to her, and she was on the phone with me. We were on WhatsApp only about 3 or 4 hours ago, and she was very angry about the Squirtlow connection and the prescription drugs.
All right. Can I ask you if Sarah would be willing to maybe come on the show and talk about any?
Well, I can't speak for Sarah. It's entirely up to her.
All right. Well, if you'd like to get in touch, if you'd like to send her an invitation, because the idea here is there's going to be a lot of people in mourning, a lot of people with questions, and I think when you have a public person, there's nothing wrong with bringing this to the public, because this person was a public figure. Now, Sarah herself, if she is also a super soldier, she will have her own psychic intuition about what's going on. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I imagine so.
Okay. So at this time, I have looked in the chat.
I'm trying to contact on Facebook. That's all.
All right. I have looked in the chat. It looks like people do doubt that there were prescription drugs being given to Max by Stuart Swerdlow. They say, I think maybe they're very into organics and that sort of thing. So maybe
I think it was his wife. I mean, maybe his wife acting on behalf. But this is entirely between the Swerdlows and Max. I can't speculate on that.
All right, but this information came to you via who?
Sarah. So
Sarah's the one who said that he was being given some kind of medication? Yes. I see. And it wasn't to Monica. So Monica didn't really know about the medication, or what?
Monica mentioned something about him taking his normal prescription, and whether he overdosed or not, she doesn't know.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So we're just trying to get the facts here very, very clear. And at this time, obviously, it's completely unknown in many, many ways why he died, whether there was, as they say, foul play. It certainly is suspicious. He was a young man. He actually, as far as I can tell, he looked like he was in pretty good health in most interviews I've seen of him. So maybe that's a superficial aspect, but that does factor in. The other thing is, I hope you will keep in touch with us and give us updates, Miles. And obviously you're going to go on your own channel.
Sandra, who was also in close contact with Max, Sandra DeRoy, who was the girl you met at the conference.
Okay.
She is saying, please let you ask the questions. Keep butting in. If Monica was not involved, then why was the medical unit called so late? That's the basic question, and that's a question that will have to be answered somehow.
Okay. Okay.
But we don't know the time scale here.
Right.
We don't know whether this all happened within like 5 minutes. He started coughing stuff up and just collapsed, and that was it, or whether this happened over a period of an hour, or we have no idea because we don't know. Monica's statement to me just before we came on there, it was just an accident, and that's it.
An accident?
Yeah.
How would this be construed as an accident in any way?
I'm just repeating what she said.
Okay. All right. So there are a lot of questions. Let's do some further investigation. I haven't given just right here an open invitation to Stuart Swerdlow.
I'm going to add Sandra. Can I do that?
Yeah, I'd love to have Sandra.
Okay, Sandra B is online. Okay, Sandra. Hello, Sandra.
Give me just right here an open invitation to Stuart Swerdlow. Yeah, I'd love to.
That's a big loop around there. So.
Yeah, hi there.
Sandra DeRoy, are you available? You need to turn down your speaker. Somebody's got a lot of howl around.
Yeah, you need to turn. Hi, Sandra. You need to turn off your not stop listening to the show because you're now on it.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So, Sandra, do you want to make a statement? You knew Max Spiers fairly well, I understand.
Well, it was recent. I sort of like recently was in contact with him. But the last time when I was in contact with him was on the 29th of June. And up till then, yeah, I was frequently in touch because he was going to be part of the movie that I'm working on now. So, and then we just sort of got close and we were talking about a lot of things. And I just, you know, in a sense, yeah, I was wondering about the medical thing, and as well that he said that there were some people he was not in touch with. For example, Sarah, that he had blocked her for a long time, at least a month. So it's just you know, making sure that the information that you receive is correct. But I can't confirm anything after the 29th. And he even sent me a picture of him and Swirlo that evening, and he said that he had I'm trying to even find that conversation because it was typed. It's a little bit confusing for me. I need to go back to it and scan it closely because there were other conversations after that. But yeah, he said that he was receiving great information that night, that they were sitting all night and talking, and he was very excited about it. And then prior, unfortunately, he before we stopped being in touch, it just, you know, just silly things, and then things were blown out of proportion. But he did say that he saw a very strange dream of a woman with long dark hair sitting in front of him. It was like sort of lucid dreaming, and he you need to confirm where you're getting the info from, because he wasn't in touch with everyone that you keep naming. So that's all. Sorry.
No, that's great. You know, we want to get as accurate information as possible. And the people that knew him or were close to him are certainly, you know, going to be in a position to make statements as to what they remember. You know, you can appreciate this sort of thing went on as well with certainly the death of Prince, the death of Robin Williams. You know, the chronology and the people that know him, you know, and were in touch with the person in the last few months, certainly before they die, are always important parties to being able to testify as to the state of mind, you know, as to.
Yes, he was very happy. I was gonna go and see him actually in Poland. He said that he has sobered up and cleaned up, and it sort of gave him advice how to clean up, because I've cleaned up myself through allergic reactions. I told him, for example, not to drink vodka, that he might be allergic to wheat, because he might be going crazy after that. That just stick to soft, lighter drinks. And he was like, no, I'm even quitting smoking. It's just unbelievable here. You need to come and see it. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. That I was obviously manipulated for some reason on the 29th of June, so I stopped communicating with him. But up till then, it was very intense. Yeah.
Okay. So. And again, your name is Sandra. How do you say your last name, Sandra?
Sandra DeRoy.
DeRoy. Okay. And you were shooting a documentary with Max, is that right?
No, actually, I was working on a personal project, and I wanted Max to play one role there, and he agreed to it. So he was going to come down here for the 16th, ironically.
Oh.
And then we sort of, there you go. So I stopped that, and
okay.
I thought it would be better, because I felt like I wasn't, I did meet him recently, it was just just a couple of months, but there you go.
Right. Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to add that you might know about this situation? Are you in touch with any of the people close to him at this time, or anything other than Miles?
No. The reason why I wanted to phone in, that it really bothered me that he was saying that he was getting information from, whatever, Sarah, but he was, that's, I wanted to just give you a little warning or whatever, sort of.
Okay, so you're saying he had not been in touch recently, to your knowledge, with Sarah, is that correct?
Yes, because that's one of the things that, I was like, he kept saying that it's not good for his health, so he sort of eliminated some aspects and people from his life just to clean up his act, and just focus on other things. And it's just, since you're investigating, I think that you need to know where the info's coming from. And I've never met Monica before. He didn't mention her. He said that he was out there, and then whatever, and that's it pretty much. He was very enthusiastic. He always, our conversations were based on infinite information. He would never stop, this man. He had so much information, and actually I'm scanning through the notes here as well, because half of them are typed, which is good, and I'm happy to share them with you.
Okay. Well, I do urge you to keep them private for now, and certainly if you want to try off the record, as they say, share them with me. That's your prerogative. But I think at the moment, maybe we have to hear from certainly the family, the mother, and see where things are at from her point of view. I think she would have the final say on what's going on in terms of what gets kind of shared with media and the public. That's usually how it goes, although certainly any of us who have direct interaction with him have our right to share what we know. And that's
Kerry, just to make that
thank you very much, guys. I'm going to jump off them. I think that
thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you, Maya.
To make it clear, I asked his mother this morning exactly what she wanted said and what she didn't want said, and she hasn't got back to me on that yet.
Okay, I understand. Well, I mean, you can't muzzle the truth, and there will be an investigation, I assume, even beyond our initial sort of questions here. Hopefully someone will explain how something could be an accident. How does this turn into an accident?
Well, that's the questions which are going to have to be answered by somebody, asked by somebody of a legal standing, which is, I don't think, we can't get that information. So anything that we say on that is just pure speculation.
Right. Okay.
Unless
Fair enough.
Monica wishes to give a statement, and I would probably imagine she's not going to give any statement to anybody until her lawyers or whatever else say what she can and can't say. I mean, I'm just only speculating about what she can not speculate about, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely. Well, for the listeners, let me just say this, that there is plenty of information on the web, many direct interviews with Max Spiers that you can watch on YouTube. Just put his name into the search. Educate yourself. I would hope that the people in the chat wouldn't just reach random conclusions based on nothing about this individual. And so we're doing our best to drill down and to get some hard facts.
I just want to say, I was not at any time saying that Sarah had been in contact with Max in the last 2 months. Sarah and Max separated. I asked Sarah last night if she had the phone number for his mother, because when I interviewed Sarah and Max in Broadstairs, there was a local number to contact his mother on. And I was hoping that by contacting Sarah, she would be able to give me that number, because that's what I was asked to do last night. I was asked by Monica and Madeline, could you please somehow find a contact number for Max's mother? And that is why I went online with a broad shout out. If anybody knows where Max's mother is or whatever it is, could we get that phone number? And ultimately that contact was made. Monica was then finally, late Saturday night, able to phone Max's mother, but she could only leave a message. And ultimately, from what I understand, she did not actually find out about her son's death until Sunday morning. At which point I was informed by Monica that she'd be on her way. But I don't know how long on her way is going to be. But as I said earlier, so that was the reason why Sarah was contacted. Obviously, Sarah then had to be told why I was contacting her. And at that point, Sarah was extremely distraught beyond. I mean, obviously, if you had a relationship for so long, as far as I know, that relationship effectively finished about 2.5 months ago. Whatever communication there was between Max and Sarah is entirely up to them. I don't know whenever anything was maintained, or that's up between those two individuals. I can't comment on that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, at this time, I don't see any direct questions coming up in the chat, so we can close this down. I want to thank you so much, Miles, for coming on the show and sharing what it is you do know and trying to clarify some of the sequence of events as it was that you found out that what was happening here. And this is very recent, so getting the hard facts is good right up front before they get obfuscated by press and other people that might have some motivations to try to hide the truth. So do you have any parting remarks?
Well, essentially, I think it's absolutely horrendous what's happened. It's brought on a huge shock on the individuals. Monica had a wonderful future plan for Max. She really was thinking it was a wonderful time. It was a wonderful spiritual and wonderful new chance for Max to branch out into a whole new life. And this is a terrible tragedy that Max, at the time when he's breaking out into a new wonderful life, that this should all just come completely to an end. It has left all the people in Poland that knew him absolutely shocked. It's left anybody else who knew him, like Sarah and others, totally shocked. I mean, I knew him here, and he came back to me. He said, "Look, Miles, we've had our sparring problems or whatever, and we want to concentrate on getting this message out to everybody, this information," and that has now been stopped. And that is a crime. And if there has been foul play involving Max's death, may the perpetrators be found and made due process take its course. And sympathies, above all, to his mother and his loved ones, and may they be given some peace and privacy at this time, even though we just violated that by doing this program. But we've got to fly the flag for Max. If he has been murdered, we've got to nail it and find out who and why. And may those who have done such a crime, face due process, if that is the case.
Okay.
It's just a sad accident, but I don't think so. That's my opinion. And that's with all due respect to Monica, who's a very fine person.
Okay, just one footnote here, because we haven't gotten a definition. Monica her relationship with Max Spiers was as a
she's a publisher, and she was going to publish a new project. She was doing the same with me. We had business negotiations and chats about getting bases translated into different languages and out there into Europe. She's not happy that I give away my entire work for nothing on YouTube in English, so that's just my choice. But the point was that me and Monica have had a business discussion since I first went. I've done 2 conferences in Warsaw, and that's how I know Monica, and we're friends. I don't know if we're still friends now, but as such, when Max stayed over in Warsaw after this conference, which was about 2 or 3 months ago, he, I think, decided this was a new opportunity. And for what I understand, he was staying in Monica's apartment. And as such, that is why he was there when he reached these difficulties, and she had to pick up the pieces as to the consequences of what happened.
Okay. Excellent information. Okay. Thank you so much, Miles. Obviously, you've gone off video here, so just letting people know that we put up a picture of Max here on the screen for people to see who we're talking about, those of you who aren't familiar with Max Spiers. And
I just turned it back on. I want to say goodbye.
All right. Hold on one second. Let me see if we can get you back on the screen here. So hold on.
And thank you for Sandra for calling in and giving her input, because obviously anybody who's been involved with Max in the last weeks, it all helps to actually make some contact. I have to say about Sasha Christie wanting to find out what's going on. She's a local individual and researcher in England, so that's interesting. So I'll give her a little bit of a rundown. Anyways, it's a hot afternoon here.
Yes, finally, some warm weather. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you can still hear me, Miles, and we'll say good afternoon to everyone. And let's investigate this further. Let's get to the bottom of it. We're all very sorry to hear about Max Spiers passing. So thank you for listening and for watching. This will go directly onto YouTube in case you came in late, and you should be able to see it all there. So thank you. Bye-bye.